Hello, I am making this video to explain question 6 on chapter 6. We have three alternatives and we're going to use the rate of return analysis to identify the best alternative between them. So the question is like this: RAI Inc. is considering buying a new equipment to improve the company process of generating biomass energy. The following three alternatives are available in the market. If the MARR is 10%, find the best alternative using the rate of return analysis. We have initial cost, we have a benefit, we have cost per year, we have a salvage value, and we have a lifetime for each of these three alternatives. So what you need to do, you need to follow the steps as explained in the chapter. Sort the alternatives from lower to higher, 2, 3, 1. Select the two alternatives that have the least initial cost. So 1 and 3, build the cash flow using the LCM, and the LCM here is 8 years. Subtract cash flow, find the IRR for the subtraction, for the difference between the cash flow, and then compare the MARR with the IRR. Select the survivor, and then you're gonna compare the survivor with the next alternative, and you repeat the same steps again to find the last one, or in the best solution, the best alternative. So, starting with alternative 1 and 3, you build the cash flow for 1, you build the cash flow for 3, as you see here on the screen. And you know that alternative 1 we have 2 cycles. Alternative 3 we have 4 cycles. So 2 cycles for alternative 1, 4 cycles for alternative 3. You build the cash flow, and then you do the subtraction, and we subtract the higher cost minus the lower cost. And in this case, as you see, now if you do the subtraction and you apply the IRR, it's not going to work as I did here. See, this is because mostly negative numbers. What does that mean? That means because mostly negative number, there's no way that you can get an IRR value here. Okay, so what we're gonna do here, in this case, once you see mostly negative or all negative like this, what you do, you eliminate the alternative with the higher initial cost. So you say, okay, this is the higher initial cost. We're not gonna accept this, and we're gonna reject alternative 3, and we're gonna go with alternative 1. Also, what you could do the IRR for each alternative. As you see, the alternative 3, we have minus 41%, which basically you're losing 41% of your money here. So what you could do, you say, okay, well, I calculated the IRR, I don't need the incremental analysis. Well, first of all, you need to do the incremental analysis, because the incremental analysis is kind of a rule of thumb. But if the incremental analysis did not work, there are other way for doing it. Whether you calculate the IRR for each one and you compare the two alternatives, or you're gonna go to the long way, which is using the equation, finding the present worth, make the present worth equal to 0, and solve the equation for I, which is gonna a long process. You don't want to do that. I would recommend just to go using the IRR. So number 1, the first strategy you need to use is using the incremental analysis. If the incremental analysis did not give you an answer, go and use the IRR for each alternative. And in this case, what you need to do, you see that alternative 1 has a 3% versus the minus 41%. Immediately you eliminate alternative 3. So now the next step is to compare this with with the last alternative, which is alternative 2. In what you need to do, basically you subtract, you build the cash flow for 2 as I did here, and then you subtract 2 from 1, which is the higher cost, minus the initial cost, and you will see that uh, also most of this cash flow is a negative cash flow. Therefore, what you do, the IRR is not going to give you a number, and therefore what would you do? You do the IRR for each individual. For alternative 2, you will see that alternative 2, you will get a minus 14%. So in this case, you will say your conclusion gonna be select alternative 1 as the best alternative. So, and now if the question asks you rank these alternatives, you could say alternative 1 is the best option, then alternative 2, and the last alternative would be alternative 3. Again, it's your first strategy for solving the internal rate of return or the rate of return would be using the incremental analysis. You rank the alternatives from least to the highest, and then you subtract the least two alternatives, and then once you subtract them, you take the IRR, compare it with the MARR. If it's not working, if it's not give you a number, then use the IRR individually, and this way you could find an answer. So again, this is not the best example for the rate of return. This is one of the things, I'm gonna be honest with you, this is one of the things that I have to fix in my textbook. The example, the problem here is not gonna, it's not a good problem to practice the rate of return. But the examples that I provided into the chapter, these are good examples. These are usually what you should see, but these, I still have to work on these numbers. I still have to modify it. And again, I appreciate your patience. This is my first time using the textbook. But anyway, here is one way for solving the question. I hope this is helpful. If you guys have any more questions on this problem, please let me know. Thank you.